Very nice. Hi, I'm Sherri Jones of the Communication Tree. I'm at the home of Christine Ibach of Northern Butterfly. Christine is going to tell us a little bit about her flutes and the traditional flute.
Hello, so happy you could join us today. I am a Native American flute player. I also do educational programs, and we're going to talk a little bit about how I personally feel about the instrument and traditionally how it was used, and talk with Sherri maybe a little bit about what she's doing.
Oh, yeah. Well, what I'm doing is I'm going around and videoing my friends as to what they do with their cultural teaching, because I think that a lot of people enjoy the cultural teaching and they need it, and I don't think that there's enough of it. So, Christine is an old friend. I've taken pictures of her at Indian Summer. And so we're here together to talk about her traditional flute, because it's not, it sounds very pretty, but there are a lot of spiritual reasons why people choose to play the flute, and there's history of the flute that is from around the world. Even they started out with whistles. People used animal bone whistles and flutes from all over the world.
Well, and the most culturally around the world amongst indigenous people, the number one instrument is the drum, but number two was the flute. There are many different forms of flutes, and how they were made in North America is totally different from how they're made the rest of the world. And I say they were geniuses how they came up with how they are made, because they virtually played themselves. That other flutes like shakuhachi from Japan and many other instruments, notch flutes from South America and from Asia, actually are very, very difficult to play, and I give a lot of credit to the people who do play those, because they are take intense concentration. Well, these instruments allow you to express yourself more, and I turned to native flute in part because of my culture, but in part I played many different instruments in the course of my life. I, like lots of you out there, had their parents have them take piano lessons for a long time. Then I took guitar lessons, and I taught guitar for quite a long time. Had my arm twisted by my dad that we had a saxophone at home, and that he wanted me to play it, and that lasted one school year in 7th grade. And the saxophone and I didn't love one another. And I love playing the guitar, but more than anything, I love playing this instrument. I have been given many over the years. They come in all sizes. Some of them are real little tiny things, and they play very high pitch. Then there's the real long and large diameter, and they have a nice, rich, deep tone. More than anything, I like instruments that were made the old-fashioned way, which is they used hand instruments, hand measurements, and this is actually 2 pieces of wood, and they used pine pitch to glue the top and the bottom together, and then they also tied it to kind of ensure that it wouldn't split apart. And then they used thumb measurements to where they placed the holes. Now, the old way, other instruments were made either by the person that played them or sometimes they would trade for them, but they were personal instruments and they weren't manufactured, so they all had their own tone. And one thing that has happened in recent years is people think of them almost like a band instrument, and they're not. They are in some cultures they're used for ceremony. In some cultures they were only played by men, and they were called love flutes, and they were to serenade the lady that they were in love with, hoping that they would fall in love with the music, and then, like all musicians, then the person listening would fall in love with the player. And then sometimes the men, once they were with a woman that they chose, then they would never play again, which is a pity. Nowadays, some people play jazz with them, different things, blues, different kinds of music. But I feel like, okay, if you're going to do that, you should also respect the tradition that they came from. And like to smudge my instruments before I play them. Sometimes I'm in a situation where it's just the spirit of the flute itself comes out. It's nothing that I composed. Sometimes I can play the same song over and over and over again. Sometimes it's a different song. I know some traditional people that they have one song, but that song gets longer and longer and longer, and they add a little bit here and there. Sometimes there are traditional songs for specific ceremonies, depending upon the culture.
I know my cousin James Udi from Loudon, Tennessee, he picked up playing the flute and he loved it, and so he would record things here and there for me or call me up and I'd record while we were talking on the speakerphone. But he wanted me to start playing, and I'm like, why? I can't do that. I don't know. So he went up into Cherokee and bought me a traditional bamboo one, and there was the 5 holes, and he was explaining different things to me about the holes.
Yeah.
And he sent it to me, and I tried to learn how to play it, and I worked it a little bit here and there, and then my grandson got a hold of it and pulled one of these like little pieces off it. It was strapped on. He had leather. He'd strapped it on, and he said he fixed it a particular way for me. So he lost that piece, and I called James. I said, well, my grandson played with it. So he says, well, send it back to me and I'll fix it. And then he passed on, so it never got fixed. So I'd still have this flute, but I'll keep it as a memory of him. And I will eventually get it fixed and learn how to play it. But I took it up north a few times, and a friend up north played it. And when he played it, even though he is Ojibwe from Flambeau, the sound of it still sounded Appalachians. It sounded completely different than the flutes that he had. And what had been explained to me by many flute players is that how you learn is you go out on your own in the woods, in the nature, hear the sounds around you, and just be at peace with it, and that it will befriend you. And part of that you were talking about with to summons a female, in the old days, that a lot of people used it for courtships. That the men had used it for courtships, for women to call onto these women out of the love of the songs that they would play from the flute. Yeah, so I appreciate you sitting here with me doing this and and talking to people and telling us about your flutes. And I know it may be kind of hard for people to see this carving on here, the bears and this right here. See what is this with this particular flute with the bears on it? What type of meaning does that have for
Well,
you?
I have bears as bears one of my spirit helpers, and I had a friend who's passed on now who made this for me, and so it really, I miss my friend. So when I play this, I think of Tom and what a good person he was. And one time I said, I should have had it out. I said, there's a story in the Plains tradition that the woodpecker was part of wrote their first flute. And I said, could you make me a flute that has a woodpecker on it so that when I tell a story, children or adults, that adds a little something. And I thought, oh, he's going to put a woodpecker head on it. Now he comes over and it's got a full-size woodpecker with the wings outstretched that he carved for me.
Did you know I wrote a book called Musical Birds, and I told the story of the woodpecker in there too, and I told the story of the woodpecker and the drum and thing too. So yeah, it's interesting. I have a question.
Sure.
With the holes, like some have 5 and some have 7, some have 8. Do you know?
Well, 5 and 6 are the most common. Although I have some flutes from the Southwest that have 4, and it's believed that the flute is about, well, it's at least 2,000 years old. No, it's more than that.
More than that,
More
yeah.
than that. And that the oldest flutes that have been found are from the Southwest, but part of that we think is because up here it rains, and so wood decays.
Well, maybe.
So, yeah.
I was thinking maybe I'm wrong with what I wrote. I wrote with my studies that I found it was from Germany, which was from I think it was a swan bone or something from Germany.
Oh, no, I'm talking about the native flutes.
The native flutes, okay,
The
all
native
right.
flutes.
Yeah.
And I have a copy of the longest, or the oldest flute was about this long, and it had 4 holes. And, well, originally they were made so that you had to have really long arms, and my friend made me one like similar, but the 4 holes are up here, and they had very large holes and a very lovely deep tone. But yeah, it's not known in our part of the country how long people had wooden flutes. They were, like I said, originally there were bone instruments that had no holes. And that they were used for hunting, to talk to the other people in the party, so that they made bird sounds with it. Then I said, people being people were like, we're always playing with things and being creative, and so then 2 holes showed up, and then 3 holes showed up, and then 4 holes showed up, so that they could actually play a melody on it. So flutes go, I personally believe that traditional flutes have the voices of all the birds and animals inside of them. And sometimes you can pick up a flute you've never played before, and there is already a song in it. That song's not you, it's like through the creator and the instrument, and that together that the song just comes out. And you can perhaps hear the birds that have been singing while we're talking and playing. And I've had really interesting interactions with wildlife here. And as one friend told me that they need our music too. And where I was playing, I was just sitting by myself playing, and I had a large flock of doves, about 16 doves, come and land, and they stayed. And I'm like playing and I'm watching them, because I'll normally have a few doves, but never that many. And then over on my land next to us, we had a huge rock pile, and that there was some animal that was watching me. Well, it turned out it was Grandfather Woodchuck, a huge woodchuck. But as long as I kept playing, they all stayed. And then as soon as I quit playing, the birds took off and the woodchuck went back in his home. And I have a friend out in South Dakota that said, was playing and recording, and he had several elk come and wander in the yard and lay down and listened. And as long as they stayed there, as long as the music was playing, and then once the music stopped playing, then they got up and wandered off and did their bit, what they were going to do that day. So it's, it's really interesting. I had one time had some friends that did wildlife rescue, and they had 3 baby raccoons, and they said, "Come on over and bring a flute with you." So I did, and the raccoons, the little guys had been locked in their little crates all day long, and she let them out, and they were like little kindergartners, busy, 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 busy. Well, then they came over to me and went one goes, "Nice earrings, Christine." So I'm like, I gotta take those out. And they're like, "Oh, look at the shiny glasses." I take those and I put them up on the bookcase. And they're just like everywhere. So then I sat down on the floor and I started to play. And one of them came over, I have a picture of this somewhere, came, and the sound actually comes out here as your breath plays over the reed, and comes out here. And one raccoon came and sat on my shoulder and had his little paws on and was looking at the sound hole. And the other one sat in my lap watching, and then the other one came and put his little paws around the flute, and they just sat there all the time I played. And I was like, oh my God, this is so cool.
I saw a raccoon last night. I went to the apartment complex I lived in. I went to go lift the thing up for the garbage dumpster, and a raccoon jumped out, and it's looking at me. It's just looking at me. I said, it's okay. It's okay. It's all right. You're all right. And it just stared at me. And I put my garbage in, and then I walked on, and then it went out from under the thing and was watching me walk away.
Anything good?
Yeah, but I felt bad. I'm like, maybe I should warn the neighbors. Or, because it wasn't vicious. Yeah. Some do get mad when they feel that their food is threatened. But I noticed that when you started playing, we were sitting out here for a while before we turned the camera, and we were talking, and there was a few birds here and there. But I noticed after you started playing, these were started singing up here. They've been singing the whole time that you've been talking about this, and right afterwards. So they're all over in the trees out here now, and by the feeders. I think you drew them in.
I had an artist who lives out in the country did this big presentation of his artwork, but he had asked me to come and play during this. So he had a whole bunch of people in the house to buy his artwork. Mm-hmm. And they had the windows all open. And so they made me play, and the birds started singing, and it got darker, and the birds kept singing. And we were all like afterwards like, oh my gosh, they're not supposed to still be singing when it's dark out. They're supposed to go to sleep. Night time for birds. So, I truly do believe, the old way was, as I said, the voice of all the birds and the animals are in the flute. And I think that's why they're so attracted to it. And that's why people are attracted to the sound of the flute.
Well, it's calming. It's calming, and there's a lot of, nature sounds that are in there. And I think they find it relaxing.
I had the very first time I played out was 1996. And I had just started playing, and there used to be an American Indian Economic Office in Chicago that once upon a time had federal funding, and that they had set up for me to play. One night, the first day was on the south side of Chicago, which is a very difficult area. Apartment, as you're driving there, there's like apartment buildings are burned out, and a lot of difficulties in the area.
Excuse me.
And I was a little worried. It was kind of like it was a festival. So. And they had a whole bunch of different people lined up to play, some native, some not. And when they called me about it, I said, well, just don't have me after a really hot blues band or something like that. So I was I'm a traditional dancer, and I had my wool trade cloth dress on, and it was like 90-some degrees, and I'm waiting, and they kept pushing me back in the schedule. But then came it was a huge Baha'i youth rap band came on, and the crowd is jumping, and I'm like, oh gosh, I've never played out before in my life. Then after that was the #1 reggae band in all of Chicago, and they were very, very good. And the crowd's jumping, and I'm like, oh my God, what am I do? I had composed 5 songs at that point. And I was going up playing by myself, and I didn't know I thought everybody's going to walk away and go talk to the vendors. No, everyone stayed, and more people came in, and I had the greatest compliment I ever had. There was a lady from the audience came up afterwards and said how much she loved the flute music, and that it was like water washing over her. And my friend would give me down there, and we were talking about it on the way home from Chicago, and I said, wow, who would have expected that kind of reception? I had vendors bringing me presents, and it was really, really nice. Lovely people. And I said, the reaction was because all they hear is noise where they live. It's sirens and traffic and things going on, that something quiet was different for them. And then the next day, I played for the Democratic Convention. That was when Clinton was first nominated. And that was a lot of fun. But then they had a native poet, and they had a native style show outside this big fancy restaurant. And then at one point, I'm playing, and right on the elevated train is across the street. That goes by, and then there's a big traffic jam down on the corner, and everybody's honking their horns. And I started laughing, and then got quiet again, and I was back to playing. And it was, it's like you never know where you are. You never know if you're going to be playing in the woods. I've played and done educational programs out in South Dakota at the Cheyenne River Reservation, and up at Bad River for kids. And you don't know where you're going to be or what your reception's going to be, but almost universally, people love the sound of the instrument.
Yeah. Is it true that some people get visions that come to them with the flute?
Well, everyone is, you mean while they're playing it or while they're listening to it or?
Well, in general, I think, I think
Well,
both.
yeah, I mean, because anytime you get into a relaxed state, that things can come to you because we live in an electronic world.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of peace has become kind of excluded from people's daily lives. I mean, I'm really fortunate that I live out in the country and that I'm able to have all these birds singing to me.
It's very nice out here. You have a very nice...
And we have deer that come up to the house. I have foxes, raccoons, chipmunks.
And whatever that is, it's squawking in the tree. I think it's a crow.
Voice and
There it is. Can you hear it?
Yeah.
I'm hard of hearing it. He's pretty loud. Or she, or whatever. I don't know what it is, but there's times, I think I'll be sitting and all of a sudden I think I'm hearing a flute playing and no one here, and I thought, I wonder if it's that courtship. Is somebody summoning me? No, but yeah, I know. I think that they stick with you too. I think that that just about anybody who comes in contact with one feels something spiritual with them. They have some kind of a bond, and they remember.
And well, you were talking about Cherokee before, Cherokee flute. Cherokee people were one of the most involved with the flute.
Mm-hmm.
And that there were stories about, because Cherokee people were farming people, they were agricultural people, and they lived in big circular villages that were permanent. And many people, they had a big population, and then they would have someone, a dignitary from every tribe was coming to visit them. All the flute players would come to the opening to the village and play, and there were sometimes several hundred flute players all playing at the same time, which I said was saying all their instruments would sound different because they weren't in tune. They're not like the European sense of tuning. So they were all individual instruments, but they would play and do like what I do with school kids, as I have them playing flutes together and drums and shakers, and we make what I call Indian rock and roll, but the kids make a beautiful noise together, and they're all laughing and having a good time when we're done. But that would be, I think, what probably it sounded like for the Cherokee when they would do that for a dignitary. And in different parts of the country, not all Native people played, not all tribes had the tradition of the flute. But like I said, in the Southwest it was very prominent, and sometimes it was used as a personal instrument where they would use it to help babies fall asleep, to help calm everyone. But it's like I have an Apache spirit flute. It's a little bitty cane flute, and what they did was like sit on the edge of a canyon and play their spirit, and it was their way of meditating. And that's one use. I mean, the Cherokee people also used it for meditating. Like I said, it was mostly played by men, but nowadays, fortunately, women also also play it. And love it. This part of the country, predominantly, like in the plains, was a courtship instrument, and it's expanded way beyond that now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry about the interruption.
Yeah, that's all right. Like I said, the electronic age.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that they're really relaxing, and I think they're very nice, and I like your music. And I remember a long time ago you came up to me at an event and said, "Here, take this, have a CD," and you gave me a CD, and I listened to it, and I thought that you're very talented, and
thank
I'm
you.
glad that I know you. I'm glad that you're a friend, and
And I'm
I
glad you could get out of the city today.
yeah, I'm here. I love the woods. Here, you have a CD here. I haven't seen this one, and maybe.
That's for you.
Oh, this is for me. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Oh, neat. Kindred Spirits. Well, you're Kindred Spirits. Cedar Wind. Thank
That
you.
was when I played in Cedar Wind.
Do you have these on Amazon or anywhere?
Yes. But hopefully I'm going to be recording another CD this summer. Also, I've done some things recently where I worked on a soundtrack for a documentary it was an international. It was something I volunteered for. It was filmed in Mexico, but it's of an very elderly English artist who lives there, and it was like his last hurrah, and it was done. He has a little museum in the middle of the desert. There are no people there, and it's a beautiful building. It's like a adobe building, and all the windows have shutters, and they open all the shutters and the doors and film his paintings, which are just stunning. And there's no verbal communication on the film at all, and so they had me watch the documentary and recorded my flute playing, and then they added some other musicians. So that was like a really interesting project, and my friend that I did this for, I'm going to record a new album this summer.
That's nice. Now, the other lady with Northern Butterfly,
Ellen.
yeah, she's always very nice. She's always smiling, and
Yes.
she brings her arms out with her regalia like this.
I
And,
have
and I
on
love
my
it when
phone.
she does it.
My nickname for Ellen is Giggles.
Is it
She
oh, yeah?
laughs. She laughs a lot. So on my phone, for when I look up her number, I just go on Giggles. So she's great. She's wonderful.
So, if people wanted to get a hold of you guys for a show or an upcoming event or anything, or to see, or to order some of your CDs, how would they do that?
Probably email me. It's Miigwich, which is MIIG, as in good, WITCH @yahoo.com. And just email Christine.
And Miigwich means thank you. Okay.
And thank you for coming today, and I thank all of you for watching and listening.
Yeah, thank you. Giga Wobbleman Minawa. Minigi Shigat. It's a good day.
It's a beautiful day.